You're listening to Sweet Bites with Sandra with your host, Sandra Colton Medici. Tune in every Thursday to satisfy your entrepreneurial sweet tooth. Follow on Instagram at Sweet Bites with Sandra Podcast and Sandra Colton Medici. You can also join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Sweet Bites with Sandra. Hi, I'm Sandra, and I'd like to invite you to subscribe and listen to my new podcast, Sweet Bites with Sandra. Satisfy your entrepreneurial sweet tooth in each episode, full of digital business tips, inspiring interviews, asides from my entertainment career, and rewards to celebrate your sweet success. Find Sweet Bites with Sandra on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me on Sweet Bites with Sandra. I have a very special guest with me today. His name is ChrisWhite, and he has done some of the most thrilling things you've seen on television and film, some of which include My Super Psycho Sweet 16 on MTV. You also saw Portals, which scary with Blair Witch in there. And also coming up in the near future is Doors. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I got that word thriller out there because you are kind of, should I call you the king of thrillers? Is that too
No,
much?
no, no. That's yeah, that's a bit too much. Too much. Too much. One day, maybe. One day.
Maybe one
But
day. Okay.
yeah,
Well, I know that we just celebrated Halloween, so you are definitely on the brain for a lot of people. So what exactly, as a producer who's worked in the industry, what are some of the things that, even with my Super Psycho Sweet 16 and Diaz for Dogfight, like what is your inspiration in? Because you're also a creator as well as a
yeah.
producer. Where do you get that inspiration from?
Well, from a creator standpoint, that's just something that comes within of just, it could be anything. With in regards to doors and portals, which pretty
Hmm.
much live in the same universe, and there's a big story behind that. But
Hmm.
that was my love for sci-fi and doing stuff that is like a higher level of consciousness, because a lot of that ties into what doors and what portals is, and I'm big into interdimensions and parallel universes and everything like that. So
Hmm.
the love for the both those films, which are basically the same idea, and again, that's it's a longer story, but it really came from my passion and love for that. And
Hmm.
was just really lucky to have a lot of people, quite a few people, especially my producing partners and all the filmmakers that have been involved, to really
Hmm.
fall in love with the concept itself. And very thankful to everyone. They've all brought like so much energy and talents and creativity to an idea that just popped into my head. I was laying on, I like to always say the way that it came, I was like laying on the bed looking at the ceiling. You're always trying to scratch your head, trying to figure out what's the next idea you could try to come up with.
Exactly.
And also with these type of films, they're anthologies. So, if
Hmm.
you're familiar with anthologies, it's a bunch of different stories. But the approach with this was to make it where all the stories are connected. So there's, instead of separate stories, it's like acts. So act one, like a traditional film. So there's a
Hmm.
progression throughout from the act one all the way to the last act, which is the last segment, and they all tie together and they all live in the same universe, as opposed to other anthologies where, like VHS. I oversaw production on VHS 3. My producing partner Brad Miska, who runs Bloody Disgusting, he's the
Hmm.
one who came up with the whole VHS concept, which became a really big hit franchise. The first two got into Sundance and were, very well received. And with those, or the mechanism is usually just a tape. These people that find a tape and they play a tape, and there's an individual
Hmm.
story, but none of them are connected. And this is something where we try to keep everything connected.
I mean, just to keep up with it, obviously is a challenge for me because I live in some of the sci-fi world, but I'm not super into it because it scares me. But having said that, what do you think about? I mean, you're talking about like scratching your head, looking at the sky. Like, are you a believer? Because and this is totally veering off from your producing side of things, but when you're thinking of ideas, right? And you're,
Hmm.
like you said, you're sitting back, scratching your head, what's the next? And you hear stories that are in the news cycle about, things that we all kind of wondered, are aliens real? And, all those things that happen when the government says, oh, by the way, the things that you've been seeing, those flying saucers, those are real. Like, does that give you pause or is that like, hey, that's my next storyline?
Well, yeah, it's definitely. I think it's really arrogant to think that we're the only living intelligent species in this whole vast universe.
Hmm.
And as you know, the universe is endless, and
Hmm.
it's more than likely there is life, and I'm sure it's visited us. And one day the full reveal will come out. I think the government is seeding it a little bit. Like you're starting to see how the military is kind of like, hey, these are unidentified objects that no one can explain, and they have the videos where you have the pilots that are following them and everything like that. I think there's
Hmm.
a reason why they're probably keeping the truth, probably because most people freak out once they see the actual truth, and to
Right.
know that
But
there is a superior intelligence that's even more advanced than us would just freak us out.
that would
But I
be,
embrace it.
I would exactly. I mean, with what you do, I mean, you are in this thriller genre that I feel like it would just be inspiration. Can
Mhm.
you share just a few lessons that you've learned, like throughout your career? What is the key to working and developing a project from like concept to completion?
Yeah, it's just passion. You gotta love it. That's the main thing. You have to love the idea, the story, where it's gonna go. It has to be something that just grabs you, as with anything, especially if you want to do it well.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and develop things that you're not really passionate, and that happens a lot of times.
Hmm.
But it does help when you do have that passion and you do identify something, even if it's not yours. If you come across
Hmm.
someone else's idea, or they present you with an amazing concept, it just has to really speak to you. And once it speaks to you, it's really speaking, and you just
Hmm.
go with it, and then eventually it starts to grow, and all the right elements come together. And it's all
Yeah.
a process, and it really helps to have a very creative, positive team along the way that helps manifest everything together. So it goes from just an idea, next thing you know, it's on the screen.
Right. Well, so what kind of advice or best practices would you offer to someone maybe who's getting just started in the industry and, doesn't really know what to do next? Like
Mhm.
they should do first, or even someone who's had to pivot, midstream of their career to say, this is what I really want to go after. How do I tackle that? Or how do I get started in that space?
Well, I think right now with technology, with phones and everything, now you can do everything from your iPhone, and editing, from shooting and everything
Mhm.
like that. There's nothing that's out there that can stop you. If you have an
Mhm.
idea, shoot it. It doesn't matter if you have $0 or $1 million. Just go do it, because the
Mhm.
main thing is like, how creative are you? Teach yourself. You don't have to wait and go to film school. Like, you can, and that's cool. I
Mhm.
personally felt I went, but then I dropped out because I was like, I'm just gonna jump into this world, heads in. And this was before smartphones and everything like that, so it was a little more challenging. But I felt
Yeah.
that the actual school, the best education was actually, especially for film. And you can go, I think, to get the fundamentals. But the one thing I say that school never teaches you is talent. It's either something you
Mhm.
have or you don't. And if that was the case, everyone coming out of NYU and all these big film schools, it'd be the next Steven
Be-
Spielberg because they got a degree.
Exactly.
But a lot of them
Mhm.
don't make it, because at the end of the day, it's your work and your talent that speaks for itself, and not everyone has that. And you don't,
Right.
and like Quentin Tarantino and a lot of these other filmmakers, they never went to film school. They're self-taught. It's something like with any type of talent, whether it's athletes or painters or
Mhm.
artists or any type of thing like
Yeah.
that. That's something that is just in your DNA.
Yeah.
And right now, I would say, with the power of social media and with YouTube and Vimeo and so many outlets, Facebook and even Instagram and all these others, Snapchat, TikTok,
Mhm.
shoot a film on TikTok, even if it's a short. The main thing is just get it out there. And
Exactly.
the right people will see it. You'll get the attention. That there's so many shorts that I see that aspiring filmmakers at one point, now they're doing big things, but they started and did like a 2-minute YouTube short. One is called like
Mhm.
Lights Out. If you're familiar with the film Lights Out, that started
Mhm.
as a short film. There was no budget on that, but it was really
Mhm.
clever. The concept was really cool. Next thing you know, James Wan's company saw it, and then
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, let's turn this into a feature." Now that director's doing big things. So,
Yeah.
I would say right now, if you want to tell a story, don't let anything stop you. Just go out and do it. There's no excuse at this point. Back in the day when you actually had to pay for film and get the 16 millimeter camera, the 35 millimeter camera, all that was
Yes.
huge expenses. And then you had to, editing, everything you could do right now just to get started, you could do right from your phone. And that's a lot
Yeah.
of power. Yep.
It's the power of technology. I feel like, we talk about digital marketing these days and how important it is to have that kind of engagement. And when you think about the strategies that people can use, if you're just using your smartphone and you just shot your TikTok video, then what do you do with that? You know what I mean? So I
Hmm.
always think about the power of technology, but then some people get stuck in their own creative space, and so they'll do what you said, and they'll not let anything stop them from making. But then it's a matter of having it be out there in the universe, so it is one thing to say that they'll find you, the right people will find you, but how do you position yourself, like when you are looking at projects and you're saying, well, I'm going to produce this project, but you still need to have the right positioning once you have the project. So how do you position
Hmm.
yourself in the industry? Even now, you've substantiated yourself, you've solidified your place in the industry, but you still position yourself in ways so that you are seen for or hand selected for the next project or whatnot. Where do you see yourself in this industry, and how do you position your projects so that they're seen by the right people?
I mean, when it comes to just in general, just taking a step back for people who are trying to get seen, one thing to say is nothing is ever guaranteed, no matter how good your stuff is.
Hmm.
And, it doesn't mean it could be the most brilliant stuff, but sometimes that just doesn't get the eyes or it doesn't get the attention.
Hmm.
And you can have the right people, and it happens even within the industry once you're established, and you can stack it with all the best elements, all the best people that you can, which is what I do with my partners. We try to put together the best type of filmmakers that have a great track record, the best type of producing team, and everything like that. But none of that is ever guaranteed. That still doesn't mean that you're
Right.
going to get greenlit at all. um,
Right.
there's still so many factors that you have to come, because you could do all that, but you still at the end of the day have to convince the money, because that's what it comes down to, that
Right.
hey, this is a great project, believe in it,
Hmm.
and that's probably the hardest step, because everything is subjective. What you may think is amazing, someone else may think is just okay, or there just may be so many variables and reasons why they may love it, but there's could be a bunch of reasons why. It could be, especially if you're presenting to certain companies, it may
Hmm.
not be what they're looking for. No is probably, you're going to hear no more than yes in this industry, no matter who you are. Even the
Yeah.
one of the people that I'm working with, Lee Daniels, back in the day, he would say that right after Monsters Ball, when he got that Oscar, you would think that he would be able to get any film greenlit, but that
Exactly.
wasn't the case. It just wasn't the case. And it took, still a lot of just grinding and hustling and sticking with it, and still hearing no, 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 even though it's like, wait a minute, I just had an Oscar winning film, and Halle Berry and all this type of stuff, but none of that
I
matters.
know.
It's still a track. And I have filmmakers in my family as well. And one of my cousins, he shoots a lot of TV and everything like that. But
Hmm.
he's done some features with some big names, and they did pretty cool. Uh, but still, it's always a grind. It's still,
Hmm.
it's very rare you're gonna have that like James Cameron or that Steven Spielberg, pretty much, who could pretty much be like, hey, this is what I want to do, and it's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
even then, like you look at Guillermo del Toro, he has passion projects, so many passion projects that he would love to get going, that studios involved, but they never go anyplace.
Right.
So there's so many factors and variables, and every situation I think is different. The main thing you can do is just really try to just believe in what the project that you're invested in,
Hmm.
and do the best you can with it, and hope for the best, and hopefully it comes through. I have tons of projects that are in different stages. There's one that we're closing right now with a distributor and financier. And thankfully, they love the project and they love the team and they see the potential. So that's pretty much going through. But there's other projects where it's just like it's been years, years. I mean,
Hmm.
even a project that I have with Lee Daniels, that's been 20 years, 20 years.
Goodness.
And
Crazy.
it's just there's no right or wrong formula really to it. The best thing you could do is try to bring the best that you can, and then hope for the best.
Well, and that shows your persistence, right? That you're
Mm,
going the long haul, the
yeah,
20-year stretch. Well, so
yeah.
we just talked about closing a project that you were talking about, and I know that you mentioned Doors is coming soon. So
Mm.
at least in our previous conversation. So let's talk about Doors and what exactly it is, and when people should be able to see some of the trailers and whatnot.
Right. Well, we just finished post on the film. We don't have a official release date from the distributor
Hmm.
yet, but it
Hmm.
should be around springtime, possibly, is what they were saying. It might be earlier.
Hmm.
Trailer wise, that just really comes down to when they feel they're gonna release the trailer. But
Right.
it's really exciting. Again, it deals with these sentient objects that are coined doors, even though they're not technically like doors. It's just
Hmm.
they're these advanced type sentient objects that can manipulate your reality. And if you enter one, it's like kind of like Matrix. And then it totally flips the reality around you, and it controls and it manipulates and it analyzes while collecting all types of information and data about those people that enter it. So, we were like Portals, which is this again a long conversation, but is pretty much from the same type of project. And there's a long story why.
Hmm.
But that was the one that we had the Blair Witch guys. They did a segment. Then we had my boy Timo, who shot his in Indonesia. He did
Hmm.
The Night Comes for Us, which is on Netflix, an awesome martial art film. And then Liam O'Donnell, who just finished Skyline 3, so he did a segment and everything like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, with Doors, it's visually and tonally a bit different than Portals, and even the
Yeah.
doors are different. But with that, really try to do something different. I think when people
Mhm,
see it, it's not like anything else that's out
mhm.
there, which is always kind of refreshing because a lot of times, a lot of what you see is pretty much the same thing,
Regurgitated.
just with a different, yeah, regurgitated with a
Right.
different fancy sort of cover on it. But
Yeah.
we'll see how people react to it. We got Josh Peck, he was in it. Lena, who's from SWAT. She's on CBS's SWAT. She's in
Mhm,
it. Kit Malone, who is part of this really cool band called TV on the Radio. He's in it.
mhm,
So, we got some really great talent, and the acting was really good. And visually, it looks amazing. And we did it for like a handful of dollars. It's not like a lot.
mhm.
Basically, the production was under $1 million, but the scope of
Wow.
it looks like, it looks huge. And
Yeah.
that's part of the being fortunate enough to be able to work with such amazing creative talents that are bringing their all and their resources to these type of projects where you're getting high quality production value for very little money. No one's
Mhm.
right, no one's coming off of these films with Lamborghinis and Ferraris and big Joel Silver type yachts and all that. This is where
Mhm,
everyone's like, hey, we really love it, and we just
mhm.
want to be part of something special.
Which is absolutely fabulous. So I look forward to seeing Doors in 2021 or whenever it comes out.
Yeah, it'll be
Because
coming out very
because
soon.
well, no, I say that because 2020 hit and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a good year. And then I was like,
Yes,
I don't
maybe
know.
not.
So I'm
Maybe
always with
not.
that
When does it
caveat
say? I think it's been 5 years since we've been in 2020 now.
is it gonna end? Okay, so yes, but I want to thank you so much for joining me on Sweet Bites with Sandra. This was so
Appreciate it.
informative. People will definitely take away so much from this, from what you were talking about with motivation and talent and getting yourself out there and not having any kind of excuse.
Yeah.
And so you have definitely piqued my interest some more. So we are going to also chat on Extra Bites. So make sure that you jump over to Extra Bite once Sweet Bites with Sandra is over, and we'll be right back.